We are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret society, opposed to secret oaths, opposed to secret proceedings, secret proceedings. No official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome to Conspiracy Corner Podcast. This is Abe, your host. Hopefully this gets out all right. My computer's being weird. I guess Sammy, I don't know if she did it or if it's automatically installing some stuff, but laptop's acting a little funny, so it might get out, it might not. Not too much crazy breaking news from what I've covered. Normally, honestly, I've had probably about the next 4 or 5 or 6 episodes planned, but we've had so much crazy stuff going on in the conspiracy world that I've started focusing on it, and I'm not complaining, It just means I got more planned for you all. But yeah, last episode I covered the blackout and a lot of 17 info and just in general what's going on with all the craziness. But I did find something that same day that I did that episode. I actually was going to do it in the last episode, but it turned out to be a pretty long episode in itself. But I find weird synchronicities sometimes. And I don't really read the paper much, but I used to be a journalist and stuff. And I wrote for the Garrett County newspaper. And I wrote for, I don't know if this is still recording. Seriously? Yeah, it's still recording. It just knocked me off. That's what I'm saying. I don't know what this is doing. I'm sorry. But yeah, I used to write for a paper called Gecko, and then I wrote for the Garrett County newspaper a little bit for free, no money. So I wanted to be a journalist, but sadly, I kind of seen the state of journalism, and that kind of turned me off, sadly, to it. But yeah, I found this article, and I thought it kind of matched with the episode last time, and I didn't even plan it. It's just kind of synchronicity. For some reason, I've had a bunch of synchronicities here recently. But it's by the Herald Leader. So I know I got a lot of new local listeners. I thought they might find it interesting, and it's kind of conspiracy related. So, want a Doomsday Bunker? Ex-lawmaker is selling one. If you've got $6.5 million. Former State Representative C. Wesley Morgan has an impressive house just outside of Richmond to sell you. It offers 6 bedrooms and 7 full baths, a saltwater pool, a steam sauna, and heated floors to keep your feet toasty warm. All on roughly 200 acres of lakefront property. See, I don't know, man. This is why I wish, I could win the lotto. Not out of greed, but just for stuff like this, I think it'd be awesome to have a Doomsday Bunker. But the crown jewel is hidden underneath a 2,000 square foot, fully stocked and furnished Doomsday Bunker behind a massive steel and concrete floor, advertised as being capable of withstanding nuclear, biological, and chemical fallout, with its own water tank. The bunker itself is valued at $3 million. I just wanted someplace safe, said Morgan. an owner of liquor stores who served as a Kentucky Republican member of the House of the Kentucky House from 2017 to 2019. Last spring, Morgan unsuccessfully challenged U.S. Senate Mitch McConnell, oh, I hate that guy, Republican in Kentucky, in the GOP Senate primary. I saw the bad stuff that was going on in the world, Morgan said, and I think there's a lot of bad stuff going on in the world right now. If we don't get our act together, we're going to end up in a civil war. The online listing for Morgan's house has drawn snarky attention on the popular Instagram site Zillow Gone Wild. Some on the site questioned why a nuclear/biological fallout shelter would be advertised in a field in rural Kentucky. Others seized on pictures from the bunker, a food storage room with rows of freeze-dried sliced strawberries in large tubs, a hatchway in a bedroom wall that opens to reveal a dark tunnel to ... somewhere. What can you take through the portal of hell? One woman wrote on the site. A can of sliced strawberries? ? Haha, this is why I wanted to share this article with you, man. People have got their tinfoil hats on, and I don't blame them. People are waking up. It's just an escape tunnel, Morgan explained. To where? You're already in an underground bunker. Well, I don't want to disclose that, he said. Morgan earned headlines during his one term in the General Assembly for sponsoring a bevy of self-interested bills that would have rewritten state laws in ways that benefited people who own liquor stores, as he did with small regional chain of Liquor World stores. He was defeated for re-election by a fellow Republican in 2018. I don't know if the dude who wrote that is like a Democrat and just like, oh, by the way, he was trying to make a bill to where he has a liquor store. You know, as someone who bartended for 8 years, and you know me, I don't care about Republican or Democrat. I'm a registered Republican, but I believe it's two wings of the same bird. But as someone who bartended for 8 years and worked at a liquor store, I see no problem with that because I used to live in this town called Danville, and I used to work in a town called Harrodsburg. And when I lived in Danville but worked in Harrodsburg, I used to wait on all the locals, and they would always be bitching, you know, that, oh, those people in Danville, man, they're stealing all our money, because Danville was a growing town. Do you know why Danville was a growing town? Alcohol. Because as weird as it sounds, I know if you're out of state and you're listening to this, like, Kentucky is still almost like Prohibition era. Like, there's dry counties and shit here, which is fucking mind-blowing that it's like 2021 and there's dry counties. But you can't buy alcohol in certain counties, which is retarded. And then they wonder why their town literally fails and withers into nothing. But yeah, so Danville, the town that I was living in, went wet, which means you can open bars, you can have restaurants with bars, you can have liquor stores. And of course, it blew up because of liquor taxes and taxes on alcohol. And it's just like, well, yeah, duh. Like, Danville, literally, after they went wet, they exploded. They grew probably like twice the size, twice the business, twice the money. And everyone in Harrodsburg kept saying, you know, oh, those people in Danville, they think they're high class and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I lived in Danville for years, and no offense, it's a lot nicer and more high class because there is money there. You know, when you have a town withering away and there's no jobs in the town, there's just nothing in the town to make it prosper, it's like, yeah, you're going to get a lot of sketchy people who have no money and they resort to drug use and whatever, like they're hopeless, So I don't blame them for that. But I don't know. I just wanted to say that. It's just the whole dry, wet county, I know for out of state listeners, which I've gotten a couple listeners from around here just because my wife hands out flyers, I hand out flyers, we talk to people on the streets, and we get more subscribers from just, as weird as it sounds, like YouTubers who complain or people who do podcasts and complain about not having people listen to them. You'd be surprised just by making conversation how that, like putting your boots on the ground and handing out flyers, or you'd be surprised how many people start responding, you know? But yeah, sorry about that little rant. I'll get back to it. Morgan said he initially bought the large tract of land on Taylor Fork Lake, west of Richmond, as an investment property, believing it would grow in value given its proximity to Interstate 75. But after Democrat Barack Obama was elected president in 2008, Morgan said, I could see the handwriting on the wall that Obama was trying to change our country into a socialist country. Try not to get political, but duh. Apart from the potential for economic collapse and civil disorder, there were hundreds and tons of chemical agents stored at the Bluegrass Army Depot, south of Richmond, not far away, he said. For some reason, I feel like my father-in-law worked there. I might be crazy, but I swear I remember Sammy telling me about that. Suddenly, those open fields look like a good place to prepare for the worst by digging a bunker for his family protection. I consider myself to be a Christian and a religious person, Morgan said, and I felt like something was telling me to do that, so that's what I did. Now it may prove to be nothing, or it may prove to be prophetic. I don't know. I guess we'll see. Well, listen here, Morgan, this is just me, but as long as your hands ain't dirty, then I don't think you need the bunker. As long as you've been a good boy and you ain't been doing no deep state stuff, I think you'll be all right. Construction on the bunker, what Morgan calls, quote unquote, the basement, began a dozen years ago. He and his wife moved into it and lived there for several years while work continued on the luxurious house above. The bunker has bedrooms, a kitchen, a living room, so it's comfortable enough, though deficient in windows. With the liquor business not doing as well as it once did, Morgan said, he decided to list the property last year to see how many offers it might attract. So far, interest has been scarce. There aren't many people in Madison County looking to spend $6.5 million on the house. Yeah, I could tell you that. Everybody in Kentucky's poor. The bunker probably was an eccentric move, he acknowledged. He just wanted to make sure that his family was close. That his family and friends could survive any disasters that came. The space could hold up to 30 people if necessary, he said. If the worst did happen, how would he feel about climbing from the ground into the ruins of a post-apocalyptic world? When we first built it, that wasn't something I thought about, Morgan said. But I'm coming up on 71 years age, so that's a big change. Now, I'm not so sure I'd want to go on living in a world where everyone was gone. At my age, if I had to do it over, would I? Probably not. But, yeah, I don't know. I thought that was interesting. I picked this paper up just for that, just because of what's going on with life right now and how crazy it is. I was like, that's odd. Like, that would be a good episode to do it on. Like, just synchronicities. And we do cover, conspiracies, and I was like, that's pretty tinfoil hat, man, an apocalypse bunker. Especially when the last episode I was talking about that, about, 10 days of darkness and blackout. Um, but yeah, so normally I start the episode out with an update on how I'm doing. I didn't really get to do that because my computer started acting crazy, but I just got off work. I'm off tomorrow, and uh, I don't really feel like going in, and we're not super behind, so I'm going to take tomorrow off, which would be today. Um, Nothing really crazy is going on. Just honestly, just been chilling, uh, sleeping, chilling, eating. That's about it. There's my update. I never get to see my wife. That sucks. We work two different shifts, so it's literally like, hey, how are you? All right, goodbye. But now that we've saved up enough money and stuff, I'm going to start taking more days off, just enjoy life in general. All right, but since I didn't have too much planned today, I'm going to do a paranormal story for you all if you guys want a ghost story. It's called A Plea from the Grave, Cedarhurst Mansion, Huntsville, Alabama. But before I do that, I will kind of do a little ad here if you don't care to support the channel. And the way that you could support the channel is because I put all of this out for free. But if you do want to support the channel, you can listen to us on other platforms besides YouTube and BitChute, and we actually get paid like a penny for every listen. So it don't seem like much, but if you're gonna, listen to us while you're at work, or listen to us while you're jogging, or listen to us while you're cooking dinner, or washing dishes, or whatever, if you don't have to see our faces, which most of the time we don't have our faces shown because we have the microphones, but now we have to get a splicer, so we're kind of saving up for that. Which if you want to support us, you can listen to us on Google Podcast, Spotify, Anchor, and Radio Public and Breaker. But I'll get into the tale. A Plea from the Grave, Cedarhurst Mansion, Huntsville, Alabama. There was food, champagne, caviar, paper-thin slices of Smithfield ham, canapes, I guess, canapes, smoked turkey, and more. A band played ragtime jazz, the strident notes of Somebody Stole My Gal, and the romantic ballad of Roses Are Blooming in Tripoli, which started many of the guests reminiscing. The musicians played until shortly after midnight, and it was almost 1 o'clock before everyone had left. Stephen Scott of Germantown, Pennsylvania, along with several others, had been invited to Cedarhurst Mansion in Huntsville, Alabama, for the weekend. Stephen was enormously pleased when he saw Cedarhurst for the first time, for it was just a sort of home that he had always envisioned Southerners living in. It wasn't quite as sumptuous as the houses in Gone with the Wind, Stephen thought, as he dressed for the party, but it was still a magnificent place. He was amazed at the architecture. The rooms were immense, the ceilings high, and the walls 15 inches thick. That was why his room was pleasantly cool. There was so much history here. In the early years, families had lived close to each other. In the afternoon of the big party, Stephen had visited the family cemetery of the Ewings. Stephen S. Ewing had purchased land here in 1823 from Ebenezer Titus. What an odd name Ebenezer was. Reminds me of Scrooge. Stephen mused. Were people ever named that anymore? It had some biblical meaning, he thought. Stephen had visited many of the Ewings that afternoon, not in the flesh, but at their graves. During the almost half a century that the family had lived in Cedarhurst Mansion, those who had passed on to the next world were buried out there in the cemetery. Stephen rather enjoyed looking at the carved marble flowers and reading the inscriptions on the stones. Some of the epitaphs were admittedly flowery, but others had real feeling in them. These days, a few words, or simply a name and a date, suffice to characterize the deceased or the sentiments of those left behind. Were feelings deeper in the past, Stephen wondered, or were some of these epitaphs simply the custom of the period? The next morning he slept late. It was 9:30 when he made his appearance at the breakfast table. His host and hostess were already having their coffee, and soon the cook appeared carrying covered silver serving dishes from which rose the steam of scrambled eggs, grits, country ham, fried chicken, and hot biscuits, with the exception of the grits, which he considered tasteless. Stephen found everything delicious. Stephen's life as a young stockbroker at a major Philadelphia firm was reasonably pleasant, and even though his salary was a modest one, his parents had left him comfortable income. Stephen had never been seriously interested in any woman and was quite content to return alone, night after night, to the family home. Nellie, the same lady who had helped his mother, still came each Monday and Thursday, as she had done for years. She would straighten the house, change the sheets, and see that Mr. Stephen had an ample supply of clean attire. On the 1st of October, Nellie put down the comforter on his bed. On the last day of March, she removed it and tucked in the lightweight summer blankets under the crocheted spread that his mother had made. But in his room at the Cedarhurst mansion that night, Stephen reflected on the day's events before going to bed. He liked people and fancied that he understood their feelings. Someday, when he retired, he thought he would write. The contribution he would make to literature would be stories about people he had known, stories filled with fresh, clever insights. He might even attempt a novel of manners mixed with humor, something that savored of Aldous Huxley. Huxley's dope, by the way. Aldous Huxley, Brave New World. So that's good conspiracy reading right there, dude. That and 1984, it's right up there, you know. In any case, the novel would be pleasantly predictable. A tale with no violence and no disorderly, tragic lives with all their loose ends. The unpredictable gave Stephen indigestion, and he judged most people to be like himself. They simply didn't need another book to disturb them. Why couldn't more writers understand that? He might start his writing career simply by doing an article now and then, perhaps a story about Cedarhurst. This was a delightful place, and such a story would give other Philadelphians an opportunity to experience vicariously a taste of what the Old South had really been like. He was sure that he could convey its gracious ambience in a manner that would arouse his friends' envy. Stephen's thoughts were interrupted by the sound of a distant thunder. The sheer white curtains at the open windows rippled as the wind rushed through the trees. A summer shower was on the way, and that would cool things off nicely for tomorrow's activities with the other guest. Stephen fell asleep contentedly. When he awoke, It was to the sight of one brilliant flash of lightning after another. Each sharp, explosive clap of accompanying thunder was followed by a succession of gradually receding rumbles. Stephen had been responsible for supplies at an ordnance department during World War II, and he recalled some explosives going off like that. So it sounds like he's having a flashback. The lightning and thunder continued sounding uncomfortably close. In his childhood, when he would visit his great aunt and there was an electrical storm, the white-haired old lady and the little boy would retreat to her big bed for safety. Piling feather pillows all around them, she would hug him and reassure him that the pillows would keep the lightning from striking. The curtains at Cedarhurst were now standing almost straight out, and gusts of rain had begun to pour through the windows onto the beautiful, wide plank floors. Sounds like the storm is coming. Stephen thought of closing the curtains, but at the moment there came a crash of thunder so loud and so close that he felt it must surely have split the house asunder. Sitting bolt upright in the big four-poster bed, he felt like dashing out into the hall to get away from the lightning. Instead, he closed his eyes and braced himself for the next detonation. But it did not come. It was passing over, he thought, and he opened his eyes. Then he closed them tight, and next he blinked, but it did no good, for a girl in a long white dress was standing near the windows. There we go with the White Lady. The White Lady is a ghost who is seen all around the world. Like down in Mexico, it's La Llorona. And then, she's seen everywhere. England, France, Ireland. She's connected with the Banshee, perhaps. A very archetypal specter, kind of like the headless ghost, which connected with the headless horseman. You see these ghosts, or the hangman's ghost. That's another one you see a lot, where it's a man who's hung with a rope around his neck. Very common ghost that you see all over the world, By the way, there's a hangman's ghost around here in our area. We did a ghost hunt. I'll leave a card at the end of the video so you can check out that ghost hunting video. But it was Frank's Bridge, I believe. Kind of somewhere around the next town over from where we live. Near there, just like a local legend. I'll put a card at the end of the video. You can check it out. It's a live ghost hunt that we did, so. He buried his face in his pillow, and when he finally dared look again, the girl was gone. With a deep sigh of relief, Stephen pressed his arm close to his chest, hugged himself to keep from shaking, and started to lie down. "Help me, please help me," came a feminine voice, and there she stood again, this time right beside his bed. Tall, with long dark hair, she was very lovely, but Stephen was too shocked to appreciate her beauty. "What kind of help?" "This terrible wind has blown my tombstone over." He was unable to reply. "You aren't very gentlemanly." "I'm sorry," he apologized, dimly aware that the wind had begun to blow again. "You must come to the cemetery with me and set it up again." Now Stephen knew what had happened. He had been struck by lightning and was dead. "No, you ain't dead, dude." He was just as dead as the girl who was standing there speaking to him. He closed his eyes. When he opened them, she was gone. At that point, he felt as if he were on a cloud drifting up in the air and through the sky. He didn't know where, and he didn't care. The next morning was glorious, sun-drenched day. Breakfast was served out on the side porch. It was 9 o'clock, and everyone was there, with the expectation of one guest, Stephen Scott. "Shall we wait, or shall we eat without the sleepy sluggard?" joked one of them. "Let him sleep on. He was too popular with the ladies, anyway, laughed another. I think I'll go knock on Stephen's door, said their host. At that moment, the screen door to the porch opened, and everyone turned to look. It was Stephen, but his appearance was quite different from the night before. He was pale, and his hair and clothing were disheveled. Jokes about his late arrival evoked no answering smile. "Did you rest well, Steve?" inquired his host. "The storm woke me up. Quite something, wasn't it? Ghastly, I'd say." Leaving his breakfast almost untouched, Stephen wiped his mouth with his napkin and rose from the table. "Where are you off to, my friend?" asked his host. "I want to walk out to the cemetery." "At this time of morning? We were out there most of the afternoon yesterday, but if you want to go, I'll walk with you." When they reached the cemetery, Stephen went directly to one grave. There, flat on the ground, lay the toppled tombstone of Miss Sally Carter, the 16-year-old sister of Mrs. Ewing, Mrs. Carter, who had died in 1837. He was certain now that it was Sally he had seen in his room. Stephen's face grew pale, pleading the sudden onset of illness. He terminated his visit to Cedarhurst well before nightfall. It was odd, thought his host, that a man could be so shaken simply by a toppled stone on Miss Sally's grave. In the early 1980s, Cedarhurst, a historic Stephen Ewing house, and the land around it were sold. Developer has built private homes and townhouses in the immediate vicinity. The restored house at 2809 Whitesburg Drive in Huntsville, Alabama, now serves as a clubhouse for the Cedarhurst development. Its interior remains much the same. The cemetery was moved in 1983 to an undisclosed location. We wonder whether the move was unsettling to Miss Sally Carter as a fallen tombstone was. Will she appear some night to another guest at Cedarhurst and tell him she needs help?
We are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret society, opposed to secret oaths, opposed to secret proceedings, secret proceedings. No official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know.